Nioke, Dr. Spirit Brooks. I'm Southern Arapaho, Irish, and Roma Sinti living in diaspora on Kalapuya homelands. I went to outdoor school in 1982 in Flagstaff, Arizona, and didn't have a good experience. While not a member of the Dene or the Hopi people of that place, I knew, even as a sixth grader, that the baskets we were weaving, the stories being told around the campfires at night, and the headdress regalia being worn by the white chief during an activity was wrong. In 2018, OSU's outdoor school program held a listening session at the Oregon Indian Education Association conference. I was recently hired as a research coordinator for outdoor school. We recognize the need to consult with Indigenous communities about the experience of Indigenous youth participating in outdoor schools, understanding that all outdoor education takes place on Indigenous homelands. We held that session in part because we recognize the need to explicitly consult with Indigenous communities about the experiences of Indigenous youth. In that listening session, Indigenous educators and community members urged us to address the ways that outdoor education reproduced stereotypes of Indigenous peoples and appropriated Indigenous knowledge systems. They shared experiences of racism and colonialism that their youth and children experienced at outdoor school, as well as just a general disinterest in the program. We sought to address these concerns and requests by offering day-long professional development workshops for outdoor educators in various regions throughout the state. Our workshops sought to deepen outdoor educators' knowledge of Indigenous studies concepts and prepare outdoor educators to more effectively support Indigenous students at outdoor school. We specifically aim to make colonial logics and practices of Indigenous erasure visible so that outdoor educators could learn to contest these colonizing logics and create more just and humanizing spaces for Indigenous students and knowledge systems. Colonial logic asserts that a place did not exist unless white Europeans had seen it and testified to its existence, but colonists did not actually discover any land. The New World was not new at all. People had been living and thriving in the Americas for centuries, since time immemorial. The title of this talk stems from our reflections and analysis of one participant's comment after our first workshop. At the end of our workshop, which intentionally problematized the misrepresentation of Indigenous peoples and cultures in curriculum, the participant approached us and shared how much he enjoyed and learned from the workshop. He then commented, however, that we should have held this in a circle, noting how circles are a more culturally appropriate method for holding an Indigenous workshop. The comment should not have surprised us. We're used to oversimplifications and generalizations about Indigenous peoples and cultures, including simplistic portrayals of Indigenous worldviews and cultures as circular. Yet we were taken aback. Despite our thoughtful and intentional efforts, this participant had the audacity to tell us, two Indigenous women, that holding our workshop in a circle would have been a more Indigenous approach. Our data demonstrated, though, that some educators were very eager to embrace their responsibilities to challenge the field of outdoor education to more responsibly serve Indigenous students and infuse Indigenous knowledges into their programming. Some educators critically reflected on how to collaborate and consult with Oregon tribal nations without burdening them, as illustrated in one participant's desire to check in with Native people or nations about their program without assuming or expecting that they all would want to participate. Other participants critically examined the ways that their own programs and prior practices were complicit in colonialism and Indigenous erasure, exemplified in one participant's reflective question that asked, "What practices do I use that reflect or reinforce colonialism?" Others reflected on problematic representations of Native people, including, as one participant noted, the way that Indigenous nations, cultures, stories, and spirituality are presented in campfire activities, in storytelling, in wearing regalia, creating Native names in their programs, arguing that outdoor school programs without a nuanced understanding of history, the present, and cause and effect continue to perpetuate caricatures of who Indigenous people are, what they do, and who they can become. Still, other participants expressed commitments to rewrite their outdoor school curriculum, evident in one participant's comment about how she wanted to blow up her program and just start from scratch. Some participants also looked differently at their concepts of home and the significance of land and landmarks. As Indigenous researchers and educators, we continue to engage with the field of outdoor education and challenge practitioners and educators we work with to be answerable to Indigenous peoples and to confront colonialism in their own backyard. As a result of the participation in the initial workshop, we've witnessed some impactful shifts in outdoor education programs and curriculum across the state. While we're hopeful about the work and believe that our workshop helped catalyze some of these changes, our experiences in the workshop have also made clear that we cannot workshop our way out of settler colonialism. Our workshop curriculum intentionally anticipated and challenged colonial logics that permeate outdoor education, and the educators who embraced the anti-colonial content and commitments expressed the need for a lot of further support. We recognize that while workshops are a convenient way to educate a large number of educators, they can only plant the seed for educators who must continue the work on their own. Redressing the ways that settler colonialism permeates outdoor education will also require some structural interventions. We see the need for systemic shifts in the ways that organizations operate, including the need for programs to recruit, hire, and retain more Indigenous outdoor educators, create processes and support systems to retain them, integrate a commitment to anti-colonial education within hiring practices, including job descriptions and interview questions, and require that all outdoor educators complete coursework or professional development on Indigenous studies curriculum, and provide educators opportunities to continue learning in communities of practice. We hope that our research inspires you to think about colonial logics in your own program and how you can be answerable to Indigenous communities and youth in Oregon. Dr. Eve Tuck, an Alaska Native scholar, says, "We don't need the enormity of change needed, and the enormity of the need for change paralyze us. Change can be as small as shifting a baby from one hip to the other. This is not to say that change is incremental, but that steps that uncover new vantage points can uncover new or forgotten paths. It's not so much the size of the steps, but the possibilities that they bring into view." Thank you.